Welcome to Policy on Demand. I'm Chris Gilbert. Today filming from the Industrial Products and Automotive Senior Tax Executive Roundtable. I'm joined by Chris Tierney. Chris, welcome.
Thanks, Chris. Nice to be here.
It's nice to have you. So we have a really robust agenda at the conference here, and we've got a great group of senior tax executives. Give me a little bit about what's the highlights and some of the key takeaways that we have at the conference this year.
It's been a great couple of days. We've been really happy with the interaction we've had with our clients, our presenters. I'd say there's three things on my mind. First is Pillar 2. We had a couple really strong sessions on Pillar 2, both what's happening from a technical perspective as well as operational. So a lot of thoughts there in terms of how companies are going to manage that process going forward. The second was a transformation panel where we focused on supply chain, operational change, digital transformation, some heated dialogue there. So that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then probably the third one was the last panel, which was focused on tax operations and operational department issues. So how do you manage your department? What's your operating model look like? And probably most importantly, what's happening with the profession and where's talent going to come from? We had a big piece there, and I think it's got our clients thinking about how do they manage their department going forward.
Yeah, I'm a little partial to the transformation panel because I thought that conversation was really good. As the panel themselves kind of outlined, how CEOs are thinking about business change, how tax fits into that. And then kind of how Pillar 2 overlays with respect to that, right? We are really focused on Pillar 2 as a tax community today, but we need to make sure that we understand the business changes that are coming along, right, to really align with what's happening in Pillar 2. So that's outstanding. Yeah, it was a good panel.
It was a good panel. Yeah, I was really, really pleased with the interaction.
Yeah, it was good. So what are you hearing from our clients based on what they're hearing here from some of these panels?
Well, I think if you kind of go back to Pillar 2, it's how are they going to comply? Where are they going to get the budget? What does the budget need to be?
Yeah.
I think that's a big starting point because so much is unknown at this point. So how do they manage that? I think coming back to the second point around supply chain and transformation is how do they help their businesses in that area? How do they put together models that make sense and reduce the friction that comes with change? And then the third is just around resources. Where are they getting resources? Our business is changing, our model's changing, and they get a lot of their talent from us. And as we change, how are they going to change as well? What do they do from an op model perspective? So those are the key things that I think I'm hearing.
Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of conversation around the whole, how are we going to get all of this done from a Pillar 2 perspective, cost associated with it, and to your point on the workforce, how do firms such as ours, right, kind of layer into that from an overall perspective. So is there anything that you would suggest, from a client perspective that they think about or we should be thinking about, when we look at the sector as a whole?
Coming back to Pillar 2 again, I think the modeling piece, right? That term can be overused, but I think just getting your arms around, what do the numbers look like? What am I going to need to do to comply? I haven't talked about R&D, but 174, and I think the policy piece of that is important. And then one other panel we had was around controversy, right? Yeah. So thinking about what resources you need to handle controversy because it's going to get harder before it gets easier.
No, I think that's right. A lot there, right? I mean, it's a little bit of a challenge if you're a head of tax these days, right, or a chief tax officer trying to think through all these different competing demands just across the board, right? There's a lot going on in the businesses, in a state of change, and it's just a lot going on for the tax department really to kind of absorb this, right? So, right. Well, hey, Chris, I appreciate your time today. Thank you for joining us.